The Tamaraean angelic beings known as Nun and Nunet tie in with the beings in Genesis that were in the water. These original beings were a mammalian gray mixture. You see in the Tamaraean, ancient African, teachings concerning the book of Genesis there are reptilians which we called ugly water creatures known as Doge or Dogri living underwater in their own city called Yam, and there were other beings in the waters of the Nile that are called river angels, Malakat Bari, of whom Nun and Nunet were descendants. These angelic beings were mammalian greys and their city also located underwater was called Khabs. Nun and Nunet were the first Noah and Nama event to occur on this planet, and it was an event that would occur many times after that where massive destruction by water, fire, earthquakes etc. would happen. As such, Nun and Nunet, who came out of Tama-Re, ancient Africa, walked on Earth and they were destroyed prior to 17,250,000 years ago, which was the original replenishment or reconstruction period simply called Berasht, which became the original name of the book now called Genesis, where it mentions the dragons or reptilians when it says winged fowl. Genesis 1:20-21, and God said, Let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creature that hath life, and all that may fly above the earth in the open firmament of heaven. And God created great whales, and every living creature that moveth, which the waters brought forth abundantly, after their kind, and every winged fowl after his kind. And God saw that it was good. The winged fowl is the male gargoyles of the Dragads or dragon race mentioned in Revelation 12:7, which is why it uses the Hebrew word as kind, mean, species. Meanwhile the word in Hebrew for fowl is from uf, to fly, to brandish or shine forth. These are the winged serpents who are the beings telling the story. The fact is that over time so-called monotheistic faiths have lost sight of the original teachings of Tamaraean, ancient African, origins which the Messiah Yeshua Christ taught and the facts which he adhered to. Eventually many began to confuse the original doctrine which was scattered, changed, mixed and omitted by the many invaders and the monotheistic mythological false doctrines which they made up, and actually succeeded in making much of the world's population believe that this was what the original Tamaraeans, ancient Africans, taught, labeling it Egyptology, what they say of us. Now, the word Egypt itself in Hebrew is written as Mizrahaim, and is mentioned 558 times in the Old Testament. Note, 5 plus 5 equals 10, 10 plus 8 equals 18 and 8 plus 1 equals 9, the sacred number of our mystical rites, and in the New Testament Egypt appears 27 times. Note, 7 plus 2 equals 9, again the number 9. Yet let's make it clear that Tama-Re, ancient Africa, included the land of Libya, from Phut son of Ham, and Ethiopia, from Cush son of Ham, Genesis 10:6. The Tamaraeans, ancient Africans, called the region which was situated along the Nile rivers Kemet, as it was in fact a part of the ancient Nubian Empire in the region known as Sudan today. The word Kemet was derived from the word Kema, meaning golden ornament, which is another name for Pleiades, another 7-star constellation found mentioned in Job 9:9 and Job 38:31, where some of the angelic host of the Archangel Michael, Revelation 12:7, came from. These angelic beings were called Al-Kami, giving birth to their children called men of renown, who would later be attributed the title alchemist. The word Ham or Cham, meaning burnt black as found in Genesis 5:32, comes from the Egyptian word Kam, meaning black, which is where we get Kemet or Kemet, another name for Egypt. With that you need to understand that the biblical Ham had 4 sons named Phut, Mizraim, Cush and Canaan as mentioned in Genesis 10:6. Phut is the Hebrew meaning a bow, inhabited the land northeast of Egypt which today is called Libya, Lubi or Lubim, Nahum 3:9. Cush, whose name means black, were the Ethiopians, and inhabited the land of Cush southwest of Egypt called Ethiopia today. As this was occurring, Canaan, the Caucasian Anglo-Seed, inhabited the land of Canaan, an ancient region made up of Palestine or the part of it between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean Sea, originally called the land of Cadmon in the Old Testament. Genesis 15:19. The last son of Ham is known as Sudan today, Mizraim, Miriam meaning double straits, who were in fact Sumerians, that migrated westward as early as the time which the Bible calls the flood of Noah, which was in reality as the famine of Sneferu, and the flood of Khufu, Sneferu's son, under the name Mizraim or Misr, and mixed in with the original Neolithic Negroids known as the Tides, Terets or Nubians. The ruler of the Mizraim group was called Menes or Narmer, who was the first ruler of the 46 dynastic periods within Africa, who was also known as Idris, Adapa, Enoch or Baal, and even Adonai. This is further confirmed in 1 Chronicles 1:3, where Enoch is called Henoch, thus proving that the seed of Abraham and Noah were Egyptians. And for those of you who doubt what we are saying, don't get angered. Please just read it in the very Bible which you hold in your hands and you will see that Egypt is Mizraim, Genesis 10:6 and 12:10. And he was the son of Ham, Genesis 10:6, son of Noah, Genesis 5:32, all the way back to Adam, Genesis 2:19, thus eliminating the notion that the original Tamaraean, called Egyptians, were or are a strange nation. For the fact is that they are from the same seed as Kadmon, Adam, Adapa, Enoch, Khufu, Noah, Abraham, Thutmoses, the Moses, and Yeshua, falsely called Jesus, the very same bloodline. Read it for yourself, Genesis chapter 5 and 10, Matthew 1 1-16 and Luke 3 22-38. When you look up the Hebrew name Miram, Mizraim, Egypt, Egyptian, Mizraim, Egyptians, it means land of the Copts or double straits. In the Arabic language, Egypt is called Misr, meaning to find, build. Egypt is also referred to as Copt, which gives birth to the French word Copt, from the New Latin Coptus, from the Nubian Arabic dialect, Kieft, from the Coptic Gyptios, from the Greek Iguptios, meaning an Egyptian, one from Iguatos, Egypt. Copt is even related to the so-called Islamic prophet Muhammad, whose last wife was Mary the Copt, a Coptic Christian from Egypt, who was of the children, seed, of Mizraim or Mizraim, Genesis 10:6. The Heka Kasut Hyksos called Egypt Mizrair or Mizraim, and the Ve name Egypt from the Greek Egyptos means burnt face, overtanned, which was actually speaking about the Hyksos, chieftains of a foreign land. The word Egypt is mentioned in the book of Zechariah 10:11 where it states, "And he shall pass through the sea with affliction, and shall smite the waves in the sea, and all the deeps of the river shall dry up, and the pride of Assyria shall be brought down, and the scepter of Egypt shall depart away." The Hebrew word for scepter is Shabbat, meaning rod, scepter, staff, tribe. This is the same Hebrew word used in Genesis 49:10. "The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet, until Shiloh come, and unto him shall the gathering of the people be." It is also mentioned in Numbers 24:17 as rising out of Israel and smiting the corners of Moab, and it reads, "I shall see him, but not now, I shall behold him, but not nigh, there shall come a star out of Jacob, and a scepter shall rise out of Israel, and shall smite the corners of Moab, and destroy all the children of Sheth." This same word for scepter is used in Sudan, a part of Tama-Re, ancient Africa, to this very day. It's called a shobat or shabet staff and is carried by the wise as a symbol of the Nile. We say this because the Nile unites at the town of Khartoum, from where it takes a course for 1800 miles, before it merges into the Mediterranean by way of its two branches, white and blue, and then divides a few miles north of Cairo, called the Rosetta and the Damietta branch. There are quite a few missing books still mentioned in the Bible, and all of them are called Sefer or Sifr, meaning scroll, book, writing, or a great large volume of books. These scrolls measured anywhere from 25 to 30 feet and were inscribed on Tamaraean, ancient African called Egyptian, papyrus, which was used in ancient times for inscribing. Let us give you a few that are still mentioned within the pages of the Bible by name, starting with Genesis 26:5, where it mentions the prophet Abraham receiving a scripture containing laws, commandments, and statutes. Genesis 26:5, "Because that Abraham obeyed my voice and kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws, and he took the book of the covenant and read in the audience of the people." Numbers 21:14, "Wherefore it is said in the book of the wars of the Lord, what he did in the Red Sea and in the brooks of Ammon." The Book of the Wars of the Lord is a text that explains the events which occurred during the war of the sons of true black light against the sons of ignorance, chaotic light of illusionary darkness. It is a manual for military organization and strategy that was discovered among the Dead Sea Scrolls, and it is also known by the names War Rule, Rule of War, and War Scroll. The actual document is made up of various scrolls and fragments, and these scrolls contain an apocalyptic prophecy of a war between the sons of black light and the sons of illuminated darkness. The war is first described as an attack by the sons of black light against Edom, Moab, the sons of Ammon, the Amalekites, Philistia, and the Kittim of Ashur, referred to as the army of Belial, supported by those who violated the covenant, including the sons of Levi, the sons of Judah, and the sons of Benjamin. In the end, all ignorance, chaotic illuminated darkness, is to be destroyed, and the true black light will live in peace for all eternity. The war is then described again as a conflict between the congregation of the gods, angelic host called Naturu, Nazarian, Anzarian or Nazarites, and the congregation of demons in the flesh of men, Revelations 12:7-10. The rest of the document is a detailed description of the events of the war and the ways in which it should be conducted. 2 Samuel 1:18, "Also he bade them teach the children of Judah the use of the bow, behold it is written in the book of Jasher." 1 Chronicles 29:29, "Now the acts of David the king, first and last, behold, they are written in the book of Samuel the seer, and in the book of Nathan the prophet, and in the book of Gad the seer." 2 Chronicles 12:15, "Now the acts of Rehoboam, first and last, are they not written in the book of Shemaiah the prophet, and of Iddo the seer concerning genealogies? And there were wars between Rehoboam and Jeroboam continually." 2 Chronicles 17:9, "And they taught in Judah, and had the book of the law of the Lord with them, and went about throughout all the cities of Judah, and taught the people. 2 Chronicles 20:34. Now the rest of the acts of Jehoshaphat, first and last, behold, they are written in the book of Jehu the son of Hanani, who is mentioned in the book of the kings of Israel. Joshua 8:31. As Moses the servant of the Lord commanded the children of Israel, as it is written in the book of the law of Moses, an altar of whole stones, over which no man hath lift up any iron. And they offered thereon burnt offerings unto the Lord, and sacrificed peace offerings. 2 Samuel 1:18. Also he bade them teach the children of Judah the use of the bow. Behold, it is written in the book of Jasher. Abraham, as you read it today, was taken from the triad of names: Ab, the spiritual heart; Ra, the source of life, symbolized by the sun; and Ham or Chem, meaning the Nubian Melaninite alchemist or alchemy responsible for scientific experiments, graftations, etc. This is all based and taken out of Tama-Re, ancient Africa, based on the original language of Nuwabic. By the time this name gets morphed into the so-called Hebrew language, you get a meaning of father of many nations, which came from the Syriac word Abra, meaning to cross over, and the Chaldean word Ibra, also meaning to cross over. The person known as the prophet Abraham or Father Abraham, born in Yor, fire or flames of the Chaldeans, demons, where he was told to leave his people and country and go to another land, has much about his life that you have not been told, such as that his being of the seed of Adam, Kadmon or Zachar. He, Abraham, was attempting to return to the land of the Kadmonites, as found mentioned in Genesis 15:19. This land was also called Sodeh, the outer field or garden, located on the outskirts of Tama-Re, ancient Africa. By the time Abraham, the leader of this group of people, set out to return the one Melaninite tribe of Canaanites back to the land of Kadmon, the land was inhabited by the other tribes of Canaan, thus called the land of Canaan. 2 Samuel 21:2. And the king called the Gibeonites, and said unto them, Now the Gibeonites were not of the children of Israel, but of the remnant of the Amorites, and the children of Israel had sworn unto them. And Saul sought to slay them in his zeal to the children of Israel and Judah, this tribe which he sought to repatriate back to the land of Kadmon on the border of Tama-Re, ancient Africa, was known as dark-skinned, wavy-haired to straight-haired Phoenicians, or the 11th son of Canaan, called Hamathites. These are the clean Canaanites, or ones without leprosy, that still had a genetic link to the etheric aspects of nature, and are made reference to when it says in Genesis 12:5 that Abraham had gathered souls. Abraham dealt with these people who were of mixed Hindu ancestry, and many were unable to be reformed. Thus they went to the land of Bali in Indonesia, where there is an Eden, and worshipped everything there to this date, even worshipping their own Abraham, known as Brahma, calling themselves Brahmins, and to this day they say they are of the seed of Abraham. And from them came the mixed humane, pale Arab Emirate and Caucasian Anglo group called Jacobites or Jews, while they went on to suppress the Ashanti, Yoruba, Afar, Afanda, Danakil, Hendendawa, Lemba, Bassa, Falashan, Mandingo, etc., all the original tribes of Ishmael, Israel, and Midian. Thus in Hosea 2:13 you see Balaam and Bali in verse 16. Genesis 15:19, the Kenites, and the Kensites, and the Kadmonites. Genesis 12:5, and Abram took Sarai his wife, and Lot his brother's son, and all their substance that they had gathered, and the souls that they had gotten in Haran, and they went forth to go into the land of Canaan, and into the land of Canaan they came. Hosea 2:13 and 16, and I will visit upon her the days of Balaam, wherein she burned incense to them, and she decked herself with her earrings and her jewels, and she went after her lovers, and forgat me, saith the Lord. And it shall be at that day, saith the Lord, that thou shalt call me Ishi, and shalt call me no more Bali. Notice, the word Haran is simply Har, Haru and Anu. Now, when Abraham got to Tama-Re, ancient Africa, he met a high priest of the Egyptian mysteries named Imhotep, whose daughter called Hak-Re, Hagar, Abraham married, and thus his name was changed to Netereket or Zoser. It was this high priest Imhotep who gave Abraham the formula to graft the pig, Leviticus 11:7, in order to use this filthy animal to clean up the dead and rotten bodies of the dead lepers that resided in the land of Canaan, that did not know how to dispose of their dead. Thus there was much disease in the land of Canaan, which led to the massive famine, Genesis 12:10, that were in the land where he, Abraham, was to return, thus necessitating a cure. Leviticus 11:7, and the swine, though he divide the hoof, and be cloven-footed, yet he cheweth not the cud, he is unclean to you. The sacred records of Adam Ray 1:10-91 in part, Imhotep teacher of Zoser, Netereket, the third, whose wife was his sister by the same father named Hetep-Hermti. Genesis 12:10, and there was a famine in the land, and Abram went down into Egypt to sojourn there, for the famine was grievous in the land. Genesis 13:10, and Lot lifted up his eyes, and beheld all the plain of Jordan, that it was well watered everywhere, before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, even as the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt, as thou comest unto Zoar. These East Indian Jews are descendants of the group called Brahmins who vamped over the original Tamaraean, ancient African Nubian, Israelites, Judean Nazarites, ways, and some of them took on some of the actual teachings which they learned about from Tamarae, ancient Africa. The Jews of India aren't one singular community. Among themselves they are divided into different communities. Each community has its own different culture, background and origin. Each community claims its arrival in India in different ways, and it is not always clear how they really came to India. The three main Jewish communities of India are Beni Israel, Kachani, and Baghdadi. Besides that, there are Ashkenazi Jews and a community in East India which claim Israeli origin and call themselves Bane Menashe. The first three communities had some social religious connections with each other, but most of the social religious connections of each community are within their own community and they regard the other as outsiders. The Jews of India do not see themselves as part of the Hindu caste system, but in the past the Hindus did treat the Jews according to their traditions. According to Orthodox Hindu rules, anyone who does not belong to the four Varnas, castes, is an outcast and untouchable. It means, all foreigners and non-Hindus are all supposed to be untouchables. The Beni Israels had a different status from the Kachani Jews. The Beni Israels claimed the skill oil pressing, and they had a status equal to a Hindu caste called Sambarteli, which also claims the skill of oil pressing and were part of Sudra level. Some Orthodox Hindus treated anyone who wasn't one of them as untouchable and therefore treated the Jews also as untouchables. But even though the Jews in West India had low status, there were among them some who were landlords, businessmen and high-ranking officers in local armies. The Baghdadi Jews, who were stricter about Jewish laws and diet, did not mingle with the Beni Israels because the Beni Israels were secular Jews, thus seen as impure Jews. If we look at the book of Ezra 1:11, we are introduced to a man called Sheshbazzar, whose name means in Hebrew worshipper of fire. This Sheshbazzar, a Phoenician or East Indian stock, was also known as Zerubbabel, as found in Ezra 2:2 and Ezra 3:2, meaning Zerub, Zeru or Zerah, seed, and Babel, of Babylon. He, Sheshbazzar or Zerubbabel, was placed as governor over Persia by the ruler Cyrus, while also being the leader of the mixed tribe or seed of Judah, which should not be confused as being the original seed of Judah, Judahites. Ezra 1:11, all the vessels of gold and of silver were 5,400. All these did Sheshbazzar bring up with them of the captivity that were brought up from Babylon unto Jerusalem. Ezra 2:2, which came with Zerubbabel, Jeshua, Nehemiah, Sariah, Reelaiah, Mordecai, Bilshan, Mispar, Bigvai, Rehum, Baana. The number of the men of the people of Israel. Ezra 3:2, then stood up Jeshua the son of Jozadak, and his brethren the priests, and Zerubbabel the son of Shealtiel, and his brethren, and builded the altar of the God of Israel, to offer burnt offerings thereon, as it is written in the law of Moses the man of God. Now, we know that these were in fact Phoenicians, an East Indian stock of people, by simply looking at a map of the region and realizing that the land of Persia was located in what is presently known as Iran, a word which comes from the Sanskrit word Aryan. The Persian Empire was a series of historical empires that ruled over the Iranian plateau, which is the original Persian homeland, along with Western Asia, Central Asia and the Caucasus. Today the names of Persia, Afghan and Iran are common, with the name Persia mostly being used for historical and cultural issues, while the names Afghanistan and Iran are used mostly for political issues. The Persian kingdom originated in the region now known as Pars or Fars, from which the word Farsi, a dialect of present-day modern Arabic. In reality, Pars is a province of Iran or Persia. It derives from the Greek name for Iran's maritime province, called Fars or Pars in modern Persian, Pars in Middle Persian and Parsa in Old Persian, a word meaning above reproach. Persis is the Hellenized form of Pars, and through the Latinized word Persia, the other European nations came to use this word for the region. The entire country was known as Persia until March 21, 1935, when the ruler Reza Shah Pahlavi formally asked the international community to call the country Iran, a name that the people of Persia, themselves, used to refer to their country since the Sasanian period. So, let us repeat again, Iran means land of Aryans.